Branding is a very hard thing to do with lighting, because lighting is nothing, right? If you think about a theater, you go to the play, and you look at the scenery and the actors, all the light cues, and there's real emotion there because the lighting person knows what it is to be humorous, knows what it is to be tragic. If you remove all the scenery, and you remove all the lighting, remove all the actors, and you just run the light cues with nothing there, you have nothing. So essentially, you have to create the space, you have to create the image, you have to create something to be lighted. The only time you would get a brand with lighting is if you capitalized on some image of the client's brand. We created a Perry Ellis luminaire, so to speak, that we mounted at the workstation. So when you came down, this was the light, but it also illuminated Perry Ellis, see Perry Ellis. A very rare thing, I can't think of any other time. Essentially, when I started, it was considered inappropriate to advertise yourself as a professional. It was not dignified, it just didn't happen. Now you see lawyers and other people who are, advertising. If you get an accident or you have some problem, call this law firm. That was never permitted, or it was unthinkable years ago to do something like that. But I think that one of the things one would avoid as a lighting designer would be to create an image that was recognizable, because really what you're doing is you are reinforcing whatever image the project you're working on. It varies so broadly, and the more invisible you keep what you do, the more liked you are, because the more the thing that they're putting up is seen with no distraction. So I'm not, but branding is a very important thing. I think this firm, the Brandston Partnership, is a brand name around the world, and that we did by the individuality of each of the projects we did. Plus, we had some wonderful projects. There's all kinds of things. It's the association with that became the brand. When I was a young man and working for Stanley McCandless, I got a lot of attributes, a lot of things attributed to me that I was not worthy of just because I was his assistant. I think those, we've done a lot of work with star architects, have a greater opportunity to get star branding than he's just fine with me. I don't know what is a real benefit. The real benefit is, can you get really good projects, no matter who the architect is, and can you do something that's meaningful? You can do, some of the work is commercial, some of it is government, some of it is socially significant. Or you get a chance to do things that are really important. If you get socially significant work, which we have, then it's a sense of understanding that significance and being able to reinforce what's there. There's a huge difference in creating an office for the Department of Agriculture there is for the Department of Justice. Totally different emotion, and you've got to be able to do that. Theater people do that very well. They don't think about it, they know what they want to see, they don't do research, so to speak. They know from how to make something dramatic, how to make it frivolous. You have to know how to make something dignified, and something casual. That is the problem. the dignity of the space is only reinforced by the lighting. It is not created by the lighting. Yeah. When you enter a ceremonial courtroom, a federal courtroom, it's very impressive. I think that they know how they want their fashion. They know how they want their clothing to look. And they want to have some relationship of the display to that clothing. So they create, a module, so to speak, for showing line A, perhaps a different module for line B, and a more formal, a more set of formal or different look. And the lighting only helps to reinforce that, but it doesn't do it. No, it's not about the product, not about the architecture at all. It's about the people, because the people are shopping, and the people look at each other, and if they don't look good when they're shopping, they don't like it, and they know. And even if it's a subliminal knowledge, it's this sense of understanding how the people fit within this space that's created. You deal with those people. It's one thing to highlight cars, to see them through the show window, very important, and you can see the automobile on this. But when the time comes when a couple goes in to buy a very expensive car, they look at each other, they look at the car, they look at each other. It's important when they look at each other that they look good. If you're buying expensive jewelry, the man and the woman go in. She puts on the necklace, she looks at him, they smile. If she doesn't look good, or if something's not right there, that is the composition of the thing. A very good necklace is going to take care of itself. You'd have to make the lighting, the components that were making the lighting, something that you related to the brand. Have to be a visual component of it, because if it was just the light, this goes back to what I said about the theater. You get rid of the scenery, you get rid of the actors, you run all the light cues, which were once wonderful. Now they're there, now nothing. I don't believe, this is just me, I don't believe that energy used for lighting is that significant a component in the total energy picture. If we did in America what you've done in Europe, and we paid $6 a gallon, you'd see more small cars. If you go to Europe, you see a lot of small cars that get very good gas mileage, because they pay for a quart what we pay for a gallon. They pay for a quart what we pay for a gallon. The transportation in America uses up the greatest part of energy. Save 1% of the transportation energy, it would be huge. Save 5% of the lighting energy, it would be nothing by comparison. So, however, here in America, second to some symbol in a house of worship, the automobile is king. Some communities forbid advertising on their buildings, and some places like Las Vegas encourage it. So you have to, it is a local cultural it's a local cultural element. People floodlight these buildings, and I look at them and I said, if I wanted that building to be orange, I would paint it orange. Do I need to transform it at night? Now, if the idea is to move show business, that's different. It's been done way before today. I mean, in days gone by, a lot of movie theaters were covered with neon and just wonderful displays, and that's fun. We did that too on a racetrack project. We had this wonderful neon illuminated, canopy that guided you up the stairs of the racetrack. And we had places that were brightly lit and places that were very dimly lit, because some of the people who go to the horse races are very superstitious. So they'll go into the restroom and they'll take the third stall on the left and go and stick a pin in the racing form. That's going to be the winner. And then you've got people who come dressed up, you know, with three women, and they want to be in the light. And there's people who don't want to be seen, and they want to be in the dark. You know, you provide all these different things, you know. There's a big sociological component to some of these things, and you have to, if you're astute enough, you can capitalize on that and make everybody like the place. If you can, if the light is seen and not totally recessed and hidden, you know, that the design of that light is very, very important. Because, as they say, we're a visual culture. Now, some people will like it and some people won't, but that's where having a certain style for the various lines of light that a manufacturer might make, and having a relationship in those designs from one to the other within each category of lighting equipment is an important element, and it's an identifiable thing. So you go and you look at it and you say, you can see that that's an Urco product, a Vega product, a, you know, whoever. And I think that's very important. So I would pay, you know, very careful attention to that. It's very important in certain architectural ornamental lighting. Essentially, I never think about a fixture ever. What I think about is what light source am I going to use? You know, what light source is really going to do this job? I also then think about what distribution is required to get this effect, and where do I put this thing? Now, I have to think, is the appearance of this appropriate? So I add a fourth dimension to that. But basically, if it's not a real visible part of the visual composition of the place, what is part of that composing the space visually is the light source, the distribution of the light I choose, and where I put it. If I went and found fixtures and went and stuck them around, I could never do good work. I think that the advent of all of this technology and us becoming a more and more visual culture, that certainly has brought about a change. And so if I was making a product, I would want to be sure that I was following the latest item. You know, I think that one of the problems with that from a lighting design point of view is we're getting more projects that are done as a lighting tour de force rather than as a very deep, meaningful, contextual solution. So, you know, some of these whiz-bang things I think will pass quickly. There's, you know, this retaining a sense of the classic that I think has been on the wane lately. You have to be as old as I am. It was very fortunate to get all these signature projects very early on in my career. That was why I didn't have to do any marketing. The marketing was done because the magazines would publish them. Every month there would be some other project. They'd say, who did that? They'd keep seeing his name. So we became a brand by default almost. You know, they were not going to not publish some of this work. So, you know, when you're doing the theme pavilion for Canada for Expo 60, or the U.S. pavilion for Expo 70, the Statue of Liberty, the Twin Towers in Kuala Lumpur, etc. I mean, those jobs are going to be published. Your name is there with the theme, so you become a brand.